Okay, you find yourself in a smallish room that is completely covered in some sort of green-bluish overgrowth. There are three figures standing around a floating magical book of some kind that is not far ahead of you. There is a crashed pillar to your right, and a few standing pillars that certainly look aged, with some multicolored crystals atop of them, and some figure in the far distance, or opposite wall, I should say.
Okay. Um, do they notice me?
These three figures are attentively looking at this book. They don't seem to have noticed you.
Okay. I wish to. Uh, you know what? I think this time around, I should be careful considering there's a this wall. I know there's a barrier protecting that orb this time around, so I need to interact with these three. Um, let's see. I want to shout at them. Excuse me.
It takes a second or two, but the dwarf figure happens to look your way, as well as the other two. You now can notice that they are, in fact, who you would have suspected, your local dwarven smithy, Simon,
Mm-hmm.
your former or current magic teacher, Relic, the tiefling, and the little pitiful Akron himself, standing around this tome. And they all have large purple contracts, documentation of some kind, floating in front of them, practically taking up their torso region. They stare at you blankly for a second. The dwarf is the first one to call out, "How come he doesn't have a contract?"
That's because I don't exist in this timeline. I had one previously. Time travel. It's don't get me started on it.
"Practically impossible," Relic calls out.
Practically impossible, but there is a way. Um, and it was not of my own doing. You see that red orb over there?
All three figures start looking around for some sort of orb you mentioned. And sure enough, across the room, on this throne-like structure that is looks to appear to be the source of all this overgrowth, there is in fact a small little red orb resting in the middle of the throne.
That little doodad is what one of several that have launched me into a particular time frame in my history. I need to get that to stop this rewind of myself.
Okay, so first we deal with whatever this is. Akron points at the book. And now we've got some stranger claiming time travel's a thing?
Well, considering in my timeline, you're the one who sent me back because you were pissed at me, yes.
What? He seems somewhat confused, but more concerned with that. The
Uh,
dwarf will chime up. "Look, guy, I mean, don't be go blaming things around here. That's not cool."
no, you're absolutely right. But I'm a little upset that Akron here
They kind of
decided.
their eyes kind of widen because now they have some sort of heightened awareness about them now that you know one of their names, it seems like.
Unfortunately, Akron here joined up with a group of Razor Crest cultists because he was mad at me in my timeline at the Whodunit Inn, and here he pinned me for all of his misfortune because every time something bad happens, I was there. Through a blood orb in a pool of green goo, everything flashed, and now I'm time traveling.
Okay, this is certainly something difficult to try and take in. The tiefling will try to sympathize with you, as he seems to be really having a hard time thinking about this.
Now, unfortunately, I can't do anything because every time I try and do something, um, let's just say bad things happen when I'm trying to do things in this particular time warp. You were there when something attacked everyone in the guild hall. Relic, weren't you?
Okay, so you know about the council, it seems, so
But did that
maybe
happen?
it's...
Did that occur?
Did what happen?
Was Lyle attacked by something and killed?
Who... I... Who's Lyle? I you're... I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help you, guy.
I
I
gotcha.
really am.
I gotcha.
Scaithe, roll perception for me real quick. Just plain perception.
Plain perception. I need it. What'd you give me? 15.
I will take it. Your vision kind of focuses to movement in the background, and by this rear column to the right, you actually see a figure emerge from behind this column.
Gotta zoom out. Is it who I think it is?
It is in fact one of the cultists, and it appears to be making its way very quietly, seemingly to be stealthily, towards this throne.
Okay, I'm gonna let you guys know right now. One of the cultists is right there.
Instantly, these three figures turn about, trying to look for something.
Do you happen to see it?
Akron kind of visibly jumps as he's the first one to see this masked figure. The dwarf will also point out, why doesn't he have a contract? This isn't fair! The cultist has been spotted, tries to attempt to act stealthily even though he's visibly been spotted, and is very awkwardly tiptoeing.
Okay, well, I'm gonna let you guys know right now. The way to get past the barrier and destroy the book and everything, destroy these crystals. Everything will go haywire, but everything gets nullified once they're gone.
The
I've been in
dwarf
this room
is spinning
before.
around trying to take point of all these things and is scratching his head at this point. And you're losing me here. The
Can,
cultist, you notice, is actually ever so slowly kind of tiptoeing into where the barrier normally popped up, and is not having any issues getting close to this throne.
wait a moment. I just pieced together something.
At which point, Relic will actually use a hefty 17 and use a swift push and keep this guy out of the way, and just basically do a wind push, force him away from the throne.
Was there a barrier there? I asked them.
Not we. We don't know. We just kind of got here? What a barrier of what?
Okay, in my timeline, there was a barrier surrounding that statue, stopping every one of us from reaching it. Um,
Relic will actually be kind of holding this cultist kind of in a stasis in the air, so you guys can seemingly continue your conversation.
okay, I want to try and, while letting them know I'm walking around you guys, I need to get to that blood orb. Um,
Well, hold on there, guy. The tiefling will chime up. Hang on. This still seems very odd, and the fact that you don't have any sort of agreement, he notions to the contracts, means that you're in a very odd state right now, and not one we're even sure of. So you just hold on a moment. The You notice that Simon is very eagerly looking at this book, trying to make sense of it as well, and Ekron visibly looks worried, but he's attempting to take this all in, as you suspect they all are.
mm-hmm.
Relic seems to be obviously taking initiative, and is pointing out, you suspect, much like Vivian was in the council, that they're trying to understand you, but what you presented to them is very, of course, out of the ordinary.
Right, right.
Relic says, I've dealt with many an odd creature in my days, especially ones that are quite deceptive, so, this could be a myriad of any of those, so all I'm saying is trust is a hard thing to come by, and not saying I don't trust you, I'm just saying that something showing up out of nowhere claiming these high and mighty things is not normally something positive, if you can understand that.
Absolutely. That normally means, throughout my experience, that whatever has shown up that has extra knowledge that it should not have is generally bad.
What? Okay, but so why am I the problem? Akron points out.
Honestly, it may not be this timeline you, but in my timeline, as I've explained, during an incident at an inn where slime beings turned into people and killed a lot of normal individuals, you left upset. I was there. And then,
You kind of visibly see him like strike a nerve into like a 1,000-yard stare, as if from his reaction, I think you can guess that that probably did happen in
right,
some way, shape, or form.
yes. And then here,
Simon will actually chime up. So you're the one who sent those things.
no. Maybe in this timeline, I don't know, but in mine, I was actually in the inn as a normal person, and I smashed quite a few of those slime things myself.
Just because you claim to be a hero in another time, and you've just admitted to possibly being the cause of troubles in this timeline, is not really helping your cause.
I've always felt honesty is the best policy, and I'm still trying to figure things out myself.
I feel like we'll actually have to make another check to keep this cultist in order as he starts to squirm. With 15, he does so, but this cultist is obviously getting unruly and trying to make his way out of this, like, forced choke Relics inevitably got him in.
I have a question. Can I please dispose of the cultist, and I will answer every question you all have, to the best of my ability.
Hold on. We don't even know what this thing is. Someone showing up out of nowhere, claiming someone's evil, and going to dispose of them is not exactly something. You're still not helping your cause. You're making yourself out to be more negative right now. And that, once again, that's. You're not helping right now, it seems. We're trying. Relic looks like he's visibly getting a headache at this point.
I apologize. I will. I'll just stop. It's obviously not helping anyone to try and explain this. Are there any other questions for me to try and ease
Akron
your
and
worries?
Simon kind of look to each other and are once again still just as dumbfounded as when you arrived and are seem like they have a million questions on their mind, but they neither one of them look visibly able to express them.
Okay, well, just whatever happens, please keep your distance because, like I tried explaining before, the last time I interacted or tried to do something was when I was at the guild and there was an incident at the guild and Vivian wound up getting hit and someone wound up dying. I don't know what had happened. There was a flash, I saw claws. I don't know. So just try and stay back. I don't want anyone else to die.
Alright, good timing. Actually, Relic actually fails this check, and this cultist now drops to his feet and will run as fast as it can to this throne.
Okay, I want to try and peg him with an ice bolt.
First, roll a contest of will. Remember, evens are good, odds
Yes.
are bad.
Odds 11.
Alright, now roll to see how well your magic did.
18.
Alright. You kind of wildly shoot a large kind of shower of ice around this room, like in any cliched laser beam gone haywire effect. These three figures immediately kind of duck and cover. From your experience, you are pretty sure this is certainly not helping Akron's experience.
Right.
This cultist visibly has to dodge one of your beams and is kind of a few steps back, but he seems more interested in the throne, of course.
I just scream, I'm sorry, I can't control any of my magics anymore, but I've got to stop him.
Relic will try and regain himself and stasis the cultist again, but actually will miss. At this point, the Simon will actually take initiative and actually try and tackle you. A hefty 19 actually does so,
I put up no struggle.
but not very hard as he had to actually build up this charge.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't knock you over, but he's essentially kind of pinned you like a giant bear hug kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. I say, I'm not going to struggle at all, but could someone please take care of that cultist? Stop him, anything. I'm afraid to cast any more magic or anything because I don't want to hurt anyone.
Akron actually actively kind of looks like he's pieced something together, or either something's clicked in some way or fashion, and he actually does like a comical double take between you and the cultist thing, and will actually attempt to throw one of his throwing daggers at it. And with an 11 misses, but an attempt was made. This cultist is now clambered up to this throne and is wildly trying to rip this overgrowth off of it.
There's a stone in that statue's chest, which is actually Iter. They need all these 5 stones to resurrect their god.
Alright, shouting that seemed not to have too much of an effect. It is still your turn, Scaithe.
Um, I'm afraid to do anything.
Well, if you do not choose to do an action, you will have to do a contest of will regardless. So I would
Right.
suggest you try and make it count.
Um, we already know that this overgrowth isn't actual plant life because I can't do that. Maybe if I can just try and do a basic force push. Force push can't kill anybody, I hope. So I'm going to try and air push the cultist away or something.
Okay.
Contest of will. Even, please be even. 8.
Correct, you did it successfully. Now roll for your magic ability.
8.
We'll actually give it to you. Considering you are trying to focus right now. I'll give you a bonus. You managed to knock this guy back. This kind of fumbles over backwards, like falling down a flight of steps. This cultist is attempting to get up. Relic will once again try and contain this cultist, and easily does so with a 16. Once again has this cultist in his grasp. Simon still has you, and is kind of shouting over to Relic, trying to figure out what to do with you. And Akron is doing the double takes again. So, Scaithe, it is actually back to you again.
Okay, Akron, have you figured anything out? Because you look worried. More worried than normal.
He seems lost for words. Um, Relic will actually tell Akron to snap out of it and see if he can grab the orb. Akron seems, of course, more inclined to listen to this tiefling and will begin to make his way towards this throne. Scaithe, I will still take it as your turn if you would like to do something.
I just thought of something. Could I have possibly switched places with the creatures at all? Is that a thing? Have I...
Would you
I'm...
like...
My brain out of character just imploded.
Would you
Ow.
like to roll for some, I don't know, something that may help, like a wisdom check
I need a wisdom check for an epiphany.
or intelligence, whatever you think will help.
15 plus 2, 17.
Yes. You're not quite sure, you haven't detailed it, but you know this is linked to some form of creature lore of some kind. It resonates in the back of your mind that something like this seems familiar, but this is not something that would normally be like taught in a mythology class of any kind. You can't quite pin it down, but you do know whatever this is, the claws you've been seeing, it's linked to something with creature lore. You can't quite make it out.
Are there any... If I voice this particular thought process out loud, would it spark anything in my prey slash companions'
You are
brains?
not sure. You are not fully aware of their knowledge.
Um, I voice it anyway. So this is very similar to some creature lore, but I can't place what it is. Does this?
Relic seems iffy about you now, but it seems to be more trying to figure out what's going on and keeping everyone at bay kind of deal. And still urges Akron to get this blood orb. Akron is right up on this throne. It is. I could still give you an action if you would like to do so. Alright, currently, Relic still has this cultist kind of in this stasis. Simon still kind of has you grappled, and Akron's about to grab this blood orb. It was still your turn.
I mention that I I don't know what to do. I really don't want to hurt anybody again, and still, and I don't understand why this is happening. But I do nothing.
As you do nothing, Akron succeeds to grab this little blood orb. He turns it over in his hands, and a blinding flash of light later, you are somewhere else.
Oh no!
It's a party.
Oh no!
It's a party.
Oh. Uh.
Right, Scaithe, you're down here at the bottom.
Sounds of absolute distress.
You now find yourself on the plateau of a gigantic tree. Immediately beside you looks to be a dead druid that is kind of blowing this purpley golden dust. There are two figures ahead of you, and, well, I should say there are a lot of figures ahead of you.
Mm.
As the scene unfolds, there are spiders, giant druid sentinels, a gnoll with antlers, a floating wizard of some kind, a large altar, and a gigantic forest god. Let the games begin.
Okay.
Read this. Read that.
Same thing. Same as the first. Uh. Does anyone notice me?
Not yet. Nothing has noticed you yet.
Okay.
This
I.
dwarf figure and this dragonborn figure appear to have just dealt with these druids that have now all collapsed on the floor.
Right.
And it is fading out of view. You can just catch the faint glimmer of something fiery kind of dissipating right about here.
Okay.
You now are
Um.
met with the odd sounds of something chanting.
I'm going to take a few steps forward.
And these gigantic spiders now, practically upon your arrival, have emerged from betwixt the bark of the tree. You instantly see this dwarf run up and use a pick maul and attempt to smash this spider's skull in.
Mm-hmm.
And with an 18, happens to wallop it, but not completely kill it. You now see a purple tiefling run into action and absolutely full flying drop kick this spider directly onto its back.
Impressive.
Spider is prone. This dragonborn creature will go after the other spider. Also notice these large druid sentinels will now turn towards the altar and begin to emit fire, practically engulfing this entire altar in flames.
Right. Um,
It will be your turn.
I want to run up and just briefly get the dwarf's attention. Hey, you dwarf!
The dwarf is practically winding up for another swing and looks around to see who's calling and will notice you and kind of stares blankly for a second. Look you
Don't.
up and down once or twice, notice you are wearing green, and will begin to charge you.
Oh, shit. Right, druids.
But technically it is not her turn, but she's... You can do what you would like. This druid is going to attempt to charge you.
Well, if I remember this adventure accurately, somewhere along the way, I think someone might have picked up that magical blunderbuss that used to be mine. So I want to inform her that I say, um, if any of you found this big rusty gun, you've only got one shot in it. Don't use it after that.
Alright, is that all you plan to do?
Well, that's all that my Ran gave me. I am very scared to cast any magic still.
Alright, unfortunately a 6 does not hit your AC. So you easily are able to dodge out of the way as this dwarf kind of dives at you.
Awesome. Did she hear or pay attention to anything I said, or just dove at me?
She straight up charged you. You were not sure if anything got through. You were at
Okay,
this point. You were not sure if your words were even heard, with the scene unfolded as is before you.
yes.
This dragonborn will attempt to pull out a ruby sword and a sapphire sword and try and make mincemeat of this giant spider. And with a 16, we'll manage to chop a leg here and there. The tiefling will actually abandon this spider which is currently prone and do its best to run over and drop kick this other spider. And wonderfully does so. Flying drop kick, and this spider is prone as well. Spider that was prone, not having its head smashed in as was about to happen, will get up and head towards you. Gigantic spider. Gigantic spider bite. 19.
Hit.
Gigantic spider bite. Hits with only 10 damage.
Well, only 10 damage is still pretty darn powerful.
Oh, spiders there.
And that brings me down. Did that.
The
There.
dwarf will whirl around, picking herself up, and notice that this spider is fighting you. And double take. And will now attempt to smash the spider.
I duck.
Good, she rolled a 5. So a perfect comedical swing as you duck. This hammer of hers goes straight over top of your head as a classic miss. The tiefling, seemingly not having any weapons, do the only thing you have seen the tiefling do, and will run over and with the 17 outright flying drop kick this spider. Some good force this time and knock it to the side and prone.
Alright.
And I'm talking, these are full-fledged drop kicks, nothing that you could stick a landing to. You downright jump up in the air, smash this thing, and just fall flat on your back kind of deal.
This is some sort of Pokemon high jump kick thing where you just
Yes,
fly up and smash them.
flying jump kick if you would.
Yes.
Alright, technically, Scaithe, it is your turn.
Okay, before I make any action, I try and state again. Did you hear anything I said? If you found a rusty-looking gun, you've only got one shot in it. Do not use it after that.
The tiefling will look at you and then realize, wait, who are you? And the dwarf, you spin around, the dwarf is now holding a large, very ancient-looking blunderbuss that is kind of glowing with a red gem infused in the handle. This
Yes!
thing?
Yes, that! Exactly! I can't tell you how I know. It'll just cause a lot of confusion. But you've got one, maybe two good shots out of it, and that's it. After that, it will explode.
Okay, she says.
So just be cautious. There's nothing worse than picking shrapnel out of a friend. Trust me.
She will place the gun gently on the ground. And looking at it like it is now a ticking time bomb. You can still do an action if you choose to do so.
Can I book it behind the spider?
You can do whatever you would like to try if your contest of will succeeds.
I want to try and move here, so I'm slightly out of physical combat range of the other two.
Okay. I will give that to you as a free action. You have not really had much trouble moving about.
Right. And now I wish to draw my sword, as that is not ranged.
Okay. And do what? I guess attempt to strike
I
the
want
spider?
to try and strike the spider.
Okay.
I've got to try and be Contest of Will 12,
Perfect.
and hit rate 17.
Alright, and damage.
6.
Easily, you tear through this spider like it were cloth.
Experience pays off.
It deflates like a balloon. The spider is DED.
Begins oozing green slime out of its body.
The Dragonborn will retaliate against the spider, and with an 18, finish off a few more legs as the spider kind of just bleeds out.
Awesome.
Everybody in this area needs to roll reflex.
16.
Okay? And I need this one and that one. 16 and an 8. No. You will dodge to this side.
Wee!
The dwarf will dodge to here. But the tiefling is caught in the middle of the charge of this gigantic knoll that rams her like an elk to the far side of the tree, plastering her up against one of the giant branch walls, like turning her into a piece of modern art. As this gigantic knoll pulls out of the bark, this tiefling is certainly worse for wear, being in the tree,
Cartoon imprint.
practically. This knoll will spin around and target the dwarf. It is the dwarf's turn, luckily. At this point, you kind of catch eyes with the dwarf as the dwarf looks to you and looks back down at the gun and looks back up at the giant knoll.
I, mm, I just scream, remember, 1 or 2 shots, that's all you've got.
The dwarf will take the chance and quickly reach down and try and point blank it with a 17. A large bolt of fiery shrapnel barrels out of the end of this ancient looking weapon and unmistakably strikes this knoll center mass. This knoll will now take quite a bit of damage, but it does not look like this thing is on its last legs, but you are sure that did some damage.
Do I see the blue rock on him? Can I
There
see it?
is in fact a blue rock on top of this knoll.
Excellent.
The tiefling will attempt to get out of the tree, and that will be her turn. Technically, it is your turn, Scaithe.
Okay. I've got to try and focus. I want to focus on the blue rock. I want to try and... I don't know if I want to... Yeah, I want to try and mage hand it, force push, whatever I have to do off of his head.
Okay.
I've really got to focus. I'm choosing mage hand or force push, the DM's decision, because I know that they are non-lethal. They just irritate people. So I'm going to give it a shot. First contest of will. 4.
Alright, you are focused.
Effectiveness. 4.
Advantage, you are focused.
5. I'm too focused.
You mage hand this little blue rock, trying to pull it off of the knoll, but you are not entirely sure how it's connected. It kind of clatters with the antlers as you kind of practically just kind of tug the knoll a bit, but the rock is not off of its head.
Well, at least I was away from the tiefling a little bit more.
But you have a hold on this rock currently.
Right?
Like in a moment of a taut rope, if you pulled any harder, you could potentially knock this knoll over situation.
Okay. So it's one of those moments where I still have a hold, but I've got to wait my next turn to do anything else again.
Unless you would like to try something immediately.